First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahushai, Ba'Hashem, Rakakwadash. Yahweh is who this world ignorantly calls God. Yahushai is who this world ignorantly calls Jesus. Ba'Hashem means in the name, Rakah means spirit, and Quadash means holy. And that's all in the Paleo Hebrew. I also want to give double honors to the elder bishops and apostles of Great Millstone that taught me this truth. Today's lesson, I wanted to go over the Moabite stone. Okay, and going into how this is proof that the Bible is 100% on point, accurate history book. Okay, and the Moabite stone is pretty much a stone, right, with pretty much a writing of the king of Moab. Okay, his name being Mesha. Okay, and in this inscription, he's going into his fights against the Israelites and what was happening. And I'm gonna read the inscription. It's translated, but I'm just giving the rundown. But in this inscription, everything he said, you can link it directly with the scriptures. That's exactly what we're gonna do today. So it says the Mesha steel, also known as the Moabite stone, and the Moabites are the so-called Chinese. Okay, that's the lineage. It says is a stele dated around 840 BCE, containing a significant Canaanite inscription in the name of King Mesha of Moab. Okay, and this it says it was created 840 BCE, around that time. Okay, but going to the first link here, this actually goes into it in detail. Right, it says the Moabite stone, otherwise known as the Mesha stele, contains an ancient inscription by Mesha, king of Moab during the late 9th century BCE, elements of which match events in the Hebrew Bible. The inscription describes two aspects of how Mesha led Moab into victory against ancient Israel. First, he claims to have defeated ancient Israel on many fronts, capturing or reclaiming many cities and slaying the inhabitants. Second, Mesha claims to have reconstructed or repaired many cities and buildings, including a fortress, king's residence, and cisterns for water storage. The last 5 lines of the description are broken, so scholars are unsure exactly how the Moabite stone, Mesha stele, ends. Okay, and here you can see the stone. Right, this is the actual stone with the writing. Right, and you can see that this is in the Paleo Hebrew. Okay, let's search up the Moabite stone again and look at the inscription. Right, this is in the Paleo Hebrew. Right, you see these letters? This is in the Paleo Hebrew. Right here, it actually says the name of the Lord, Yahweh, Yahweh. Okay, and the Moabites, you got to remember that the Moabites, everybody, right? The original language is Hebrew. Okay, the Moabites, hey, they were speaking Hebrew. Okay, same thing with the Israelites, the Edomites, they were speaking Hebrew. So that's why you see these characters. But ultimately, I wanted to put out the fact that the reason this this stone looks like this is because when you go into the history, they found this stone pretty much over there in the east. I forgot exactly where, but it was pretty much being held by a bunch of, I just call them pretty much like Arabs, sand people, right? People living in the desert, and they had this stone. And you had this pretty much this archaeologist or this dude wandering that saw the stone and realized, damn, this shit's like hella valuable. Okay, and then more people started coming, and more people started coming, and eventually, the people that had possession of the stone, right, they were getting offers and offers and offers, and it got to a point where they started getting violent over the stone. Right, they tried to start, they started doing propositions. We'll give you the stone if you do this, this, and that, and it got to the point that these people that lived in the desert that had the stone said, "Alright, none of you are gonna have it. Right? Forget the stone. We're done with this." And they ended up breaking the stone into pieces, and everybody, different people, took those pieces and went their separate ways. Right? The stone was broken. Every single person got their own piece, and they went separate ways. Okay, and that's why it looks like this all broken, because eventually they regathered the pieces, put them together to get the whole thing. So that's the history. But going into now what it says, if you go down to down here, I'm at the image. If you go down to right here, it actually goes into the discovery. It says the Moabite stone was discovered in 1868 CE at Dibon, amidst a time in which scholars sought for any inscriptions and any other proofs for the historicity of the Bible. So when the scholars Charles Clement Ganu heard that the missionary F.A. Klein had discovered a large stone with writing in Deban, he sent two people for further information. The first person made a copy of the text for unknown reasons. The second intermediary aroused the anger of villagers. This resulted in the shattering of the Moabite stone. After purchasing and locating the various fragments of the antiquities market, Clement Ganu was able to reconstruct the entire stone. Alright, so pretty much what I said, but in the most straightforward way. But going down to what it actually says of the stone, okay, this is I'm gonna read all of it, and I'm gonna go into where it breaks it down in the scriptures. But the first line says, "I am Mesha, the son of Chemos Yati, the king of Moab from Dibon. My father was king of Moab for 30 years, and I was king after my father." Right, and if you go to 2 Kings 3, right, it talks about Mesha, right? In 2 Kings chapter 3 and verse 4, it says, "And Mesha, king of Moab, was a sheep master, and rendered unto the king of Israel 100,000 lambs and 100,000 rams with the wool." Okay, so showing you that this is actually talking about a real person. Okay, this is a literal stone. Okay, talking about that person, Mesha. Misha wrote this. Okay, this is written in the first person. It says, "And in Karkok I made this high place for Chemos." Okay, and I think Chemos, and when you go down, it also says Chemosh was the names of their pagan gods. It says, "I made this high place for Chemos," or no, his dad I meant. But they're the god of the Moabites. The name was Chemosh, if I remember correctly. It says, "Because he had delivered me from all the kings, and because he has made me look down on all my enemies." It says Omri was the king of Israel. Okay, now if we go to 1 Kings 16, it talks about Omri, right? Omri. Okay, right here, he was king of Israel. Omri, the acts of Omri. Omri slept with his fathers when he passed away. Okay, and the point is in verse 30. Okay, with the lineage of Omri, it says, "And Ahab, the son of Omri, did evil in the sight of the Lord above all that were before him." Okay, so Omri's son is Ahab. Okay, that's the lineage, and it's going to play the fact, it's going to go directly with what we read. It says, "Omri was the king of Israel, and he oppressed Moab for many days. For Chemos was angry with his land, and his son succeeded him." It's now talking about Ahab. "And he said, he too, I will oppress Moab. In my days he did so, but I looked down on him and on his house, and Israel has gone to ruin, yes, is gone to ruin forever." Right, so he's saying that Omri, he was oppressing us, the Moabites, and his son Ahab, he was doing the same thing. Right, and we can read that in 2 Kings chapter 3. Right, and then it says that, let me reread. It says, "And his son succeeded him, and said, he too I will oppress Moab. In my days he did so, but I looked down on him and on his house, and Israel has gone to ruin, yes, it has gone to ruin forever." Omri had taken possession of the whole land of Medeba, and he lived there in his days and half the days of his son 40 years. But Chemos, his father, restored it in my days, and I built Baal Meon, and made in it a water reservoir, and I built Kiriathaim. Keep going into how he and his father rebelled. It actually says that in 2 Kings chapter 3 and verse 5. It says, "But it came to pass when Ahab was dead, that the king of Israel, or the king of Moab, rebelled against the king of Israel. And King Jehoram went out of Samaria at the same time, and numbered all Israel. And he went and said to Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, saying, The king of Moab hath rebelled against me. Wilt thou go with me against Moab to battle? And he said, I will go up. I am as thou art, my people as thy people, and my horses as thy horses." Okay, so the point is going into the history that we just read. Right? Mesha, king of Moab, after Ahab had died, rebelled against the Israelites. Okay, it says, "And the men of Gad lived in the land of Ataroth from ancient times. And the king of Israel built Ataroth for himself. And I fought against the city, and I captured and I killed all the people from the city as a sacrifice for Chemos and for Moab." Right, this is talking about the rebellion we just read in verse 5. It says, "And I brought back the fire hearth of Dowdow from there, and I hauled them before the face of Chemos and Kiriath, and I made the men of Sharon live there, as well as the men of Maharith." Okay, and one key point I want to bring out, going into how the Bible is historical, is that Misha, right, he said that the men of Gad lived in Ataroth from ancient times. Okay, and he ransacked that land, that city called Ataroth that the Israelites were living in. But the fact is this: the man of Gad lived in the land of Ataroth from ancient times. Right, and the history of that is in Numbers chapter 32. Okay, going into how, and ultimately the history is that the Israelites, right, they're in the wilderness and they're going towards the promised land. Okay, they came across a city called Ataroth, which was ruled by the Amorites, with the king called the Sihon. Okay, and they overtook the city and they inhabited that city until the time of pretty much Misha when he took it over. Okay, and it says that in Numbers chapter 32 and verse Numbers chapter 32 and verse 34. It says, "And the children of Gad built Dibon and Ataroth and Aror." Right? So, hey, that's why I said way back. Right? The men of Gad lived in the land of Ataroth from ancient times. Right? Back in Numbers, okay, when they're in the wilderness, from that time, which was roughly around 1400 BC, right, till the time that this was written, around 900 BC, so 500 years, the Gadites, right, they were living in Ataroth and Dibon. They built up these cities. Okay, so this is the historical link to what we just read on that stone. Okay, as it says, and Chemo said to me, go take Nebo from Israel. Okay, let me see if it mentions Nebo here. Right, another city. Right, go take Nebo from Israel. And I went in the night, and I fought against it from the break of dawn unto noon, and I took it and killed its whole population, 7,000 male citizens and aliens, female citizens and aliens, and servant girls. For I had put it to the band of Astarchemos, and from there I took the vessels of Yahweh. Okay, and when I was saying that the Moabite stone, right, had the name of the Lord, let me show you that again. Right here, Yahweh. Okay, this is what we're reading right now. When he said he took the vessels of Yahweh, we're in this section right here. Okay, the name of the Lord. It says, "And I hauled them before the face of Chemos. And the king of Israel had bid Jahaz, and he stayed there during his campaigns against me. And Chemos drove him away before my face. And I took 200 men from Moab, all his division, and I led it up to Jahaz, and I have taken it in order to add it to Dibon. I have built Karchach, the wall of the woods and the wall of the citadel, and I have built its gates, and have built its towers, and I have built the house of the king, and I have made the double reservoir for the spring, in the innermost of the city. Now there is no cistern in the innermost of the city, in Karchach, and I said to all the people, make each one of you a cistern in his old house. And I cut out the moats for Karchach by means of prisoners from Israel." Let me actually see something. Okay. It says, keeping on reading, it says, "I have built Ariar, and I have made the military road in the Arnon. I have built Bamoth, for it had been destroyed. I have built Bezer, for it lay in ruins. And the men of Dibon stood in battle order, for all Dibon they were in subjection. I am the king over hundreds in the towns which I have added to the land." It says, "I have built the house of Medeba, and the house of Diblathaim, and the house of Baal Meon, and I brought there the flocks of the land. And Horonam there lived, and Chemos said to me, go down, fight against Horonam. I went down, and Chemos restored in my days, and from there, and then it cuts off." Okay, so ultimately, right, everything we just read off the stone, we just read it in the scriptures. Okay, the fact that it says the children of Dad lived in Altaroth, we prove that in Numbers. The fact it talks about how Misha, king of Moab, rebelled after Ahab was passed away, we just read that here and on the stone, first couple lines. Right, it all goes together. Okay, and they actually they show you here, they show you this right here also. Okay, the history. Let's read it real quick. It says, certain aspects of the Moabite stone inscription agree with the only other contemporary historical source, namely 2 Kings 3. According to 2 Kings 3 and 4, Mesha was subjugated under Ahab. Then when Ahab died, the king of Moab rebelled against the king of Israel. Subsequently, Joram, the son of Ahab, attacked Moab. When the Moabites came to Israel's camp, the Israelites rose up and struck down the Moabites. The Moabites fled from before them. They went forth into the land, slaughtering the Moabites. In other words, the Moabites were suppressed by ancient Israel during the reigns of Omri. Okay, during this time right here. Um, let's keep on reading till here, or just a majority of this. It says the Moabite stone includes a similar timeline. Omri, king of Israel, had oppressed Moab for many days, for Chemosh was angry with his land. His son succeeded him, and he too said, I will oppress Moab. Though the son is not mentioned by name, he is most likely the offspring of Omri, namely Joram. This is a point of contact consistent between the Moabite stone and 2 Kings 3. At the same time, the Moabite stone fails to mention how Omri, Ahab, and Joram went on campaigns against the Moabites. Likewise, 2 Kings does not detail how Mesha seized Israelite territory, right? Because we did read in the stone that the Moabites did pretty much uh, invade the Israelites and slaughter pretty severely. But I guess that history just wasn't detailed. It says, moreover, 2 Kings chapter 13 and verse 20 comments further on the Moabites. Elisha died and they buried him, and a group of Moabites regularly invaded the land in the spring of that year. If Elisha died around the beginning of the 8th century BCE, it suggests that Mesha successfully annexed certain regions of Israel during his reign, sometime between 840 BCE and 800 BCE. However, Moabite incursions into Israelite territory after the reign of Mesha were smaller in nature, groups of Moabites as opposed to the Moabite political entity. Okay, um, and then it goes into some other history, but I think the point has been proven, right? Let's read the conclusion. Though one of the thousands of ancient inscriptions, the Moabite stone is one of the longest inscriptions. As such, it can be extremely useful for reconstructing history. Nonetheless, we should be careful to recognize that even inscriptions have both implicit and explicit biases, right? Going into how in Kings it talks about how we were fucking the Moabites, right? But in the Moabite stone, right, they're saying that they were fucking us up, right? You're not gonna put in your story about how you're getting murked, right, severely. And the scriptures do talk about how Israel was sometimes absolutely murked and this and that. It's true, but in this case, it didn't go into specific details um, on either side, right, about their own people being destroyed during these fights. It says these biases can result in a skewed understanding of history. As such, it must, as with any inscription, be corroborated with other data. Moreover, our reading of such ancient inscriptions should be careful not to strongly distinguish between politics and religion, as has been demonstrated. These categories were more intertwined in the ancient world than they are in our own world. Okay, so I'll leave it at that. Just going into some history of the Moabite stone and going into how this is proof that the Bible's history is 100% on point. So hopefully this is edifying. With that, we give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elder bishops and apostles of Great Millstone, the time with truth. Shalom to you, like Shalom.